What if the Titanic disaster wasn't just an accident? What if it was predicted years before it ever happened? Strange coincidences, eerie warnings, and one book written long before the ship was built. All seem to foretell the greatest maritime tragedy in history. This is the chilling story of how fiction, fate, and reality collided. On a cold April night in 1912. In the early 1900s, the Titanic was the pride of human engineering. A floating palace. The largest and most luxurious ship ever built. They called it unsinkable. It had swimming pools, grand staircases, and the most advanced technology of its time. On April 10, 1912, it set sail from Southampton to New York, with over 2,200 passengers on board. 4 days later, it would become a symbol of human arrogance and fate's cruel irony. 14 years before the Titanic sank, an American writer named Morgan Robertson published a novel called Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan. It told the story of the world's largest ship, a luxury liner deemed unsinkable, that strikes an iceberg in the North Atlantic and sinks, with too few lifeboats for its passengers. Sound familiar? The fictional ship was called the Titan. The Titan was 800 feet long. The Titanic? 882. The Titan carried 2,500 passengers. The Titanic, 2,224. Both ships hit an iceberg on an April night, in almost the exact same region of the North Atlantic. Even the speed, 22.5 knots, was identical. A book written in 1898 had described a disaster that wouldn't happen until 1912, with details too close to ignore. Morgan Robertson claimed he wasn't psychic. He said his book was based on knowledge of maritime trends. He simply imagined what the future of ships might look like. But skeptics and believers still argue. How could one man get so many details right? Down to the size, speed, and even the number of lifeboats? The coincidences didn't end with the book. On the night of April 14, 1912, the Titanic received multiple iceberg warnings from nearby ships. But they were ignored. The crew believed they were too far south for danger, even as the radio operator received urgent messages. He replied, "Shut up, I'm busy." Moments later, the Titanic struck the iceberg. Some passengers had eerie premonitions too. A few canceled their tickets at the last moment, claiming they had bad feelings. One writer, William Stead, who was aboard the Titanic, had written years earlier about death by shipwreck and lack of lifeboats. He died in the disaster he once described. Maybe these weren't predictions, maybe they were warnings. The Titanic wasn't just a ship, it was a mirror of human pride. A belief that nature could be conquered, that technology could outsmart fate. But in the end, it only took one iceberg to remind us that no creation is truly unsinkable. Over a century later, the Titanic still rests in the cold Atlantic, a monument to coincidence, fate, and the thin line between fiction and reality. Was it all chance? Or something the universe tried to tell us and we simply didn't listen? This is Curious Loop, where history meets the unexplained, and where coincidence sometimes feels a little too perfect to be chance.